To see you too.
Yeah. Okay. Good afternoon. Good morning, everyone, wherever you're joining from. It's morning here, just about 17 minutes past the hour of 9 o'clock in Brampton, Canada. And I'm super excited to be joining you today. Okay. I was in Nigeria this time last week, preparing to head out. I was in Nigeria for a month and I had a great time. I really, really miss Nigeria, and it looks like I might be back very, very soon. Usually I come once a year and I spend like 1 month. Well, it's looking like something might bring me back very soon. Okay. Today is a very important day. You know that this month in House of Saviors, we're doing sector analysis. Last week, we explored the real estate sector. If you missed that session, you don't want to, not go back and watch that video. Tomo Tekbola was just off the hook. She broke the sector down and explain how and where you can play. So you have no excuse, right? And, Tom is the head of our cooperative society. And she shared with you what they're working on. I'm super proud of her. Today, we go in the direction of policy and politics, right? A lot of us talk about policy, talk about politics, but we do not know how powerful policies are in shaping our life. Just last week, the president of Nigeria, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, passed a new policy, and that changed the entire sector when it comes to power, right? But a whole lot of us, do not pay attention to the most critical part that we should pay attention to, and that's why people have said that one man in the place of policy is more powerful than 2 million prayer warriors, right? Well, I do not know whether that's right or wrong, but I'm going to ask our subject matter expert today. Is someone you all know. We run House of Saviors together. Is my brother. We literally run businesses, strategies together. And so this morning I was watching him speak. He didn't know I was watching. He was speaking at a particular meeting. I was watching online. I joined early, and it was really, really, really good what he had to share with them about how they can build their businesses and how you can move from faith, enterprise to the place of policy. Please, House of Saviors, go to the chat room and welcome with me Olufisayo Okunsanya. Okay, Fisayo is somewhere there. Okay, admin, can you help me spotlight him? Okay, good. I call him my father in the world. Okay, he's the one teaching me bad things. Okay, Fisayo, how are you?
I'm well, so how are you doing?
I'm fine. Good to have you here.
Yes, sir. Good to be here.
Are you in the UK or you are in Nigeria? Where exactly?
I'm in Nigeria.
Okay.
I'm in Nigeria.
Okay, good. Okay, so we're going to start this conversation, Fisayo. Let me even start with that statement I made. That one man in the place of policy is more powerful than 2 million prayer warriors. How true is that?
That's the gospel. That's the truth. If you take examples of Esther and see what God went through to put her into the place of policy, where she had access. Because the place of policy, the doors don't open from outside. The doors open from inside. Someone has to open it for you. And if you now take some of the prayers you even pray that God should touch the heart of the king, the heart of the king is in the hand of the Lord. And he turns it the way he wills. There's somebody else who's whispering to the king. So prayer is good, and I don't want to undermine prayer. But prayer makes power available for something. Right? So if you ignore policy, the policy makers will dictate your life. So the Bible says, when the righteous rule, the city rejoices. So definitely you need to get righteous people in rule or in government. People who are aligned with God. Yeah.
Okay, let's start from the foundation. People talk about policy, politics, and it's almost like it's a word that is strange to many people. especially people of faith. As a matter of fact, when I see the way people think nations are governed, it makes me laugh. And when I see the kind of intervention we're trying to create to solve a national problem, for example, someone can declare 72 hours of praise to open the heaven over Nigeria, for example, and I don't have a problem with that, but I always ask, how many nations have grown that way? That's the only model some people know. Another person will just tell you, let's protest and, fight the government in power and criticize them all the time. And at the end of the day, there have been models and models and models that have shown that doesn't really, 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 really work that way. So I want you to break it down for us. What exactly is this policy, that people talk about? What does it mean for the collective wellness of a people, and why is it important?
Right. Thank you. Thank you for having me, PF, as usual. So policy is a place where we talk about governance and government, maybe over a small territory or over a large territory or over some defined territory. So policy has to do with legislating rules and regulation that govern that territory. Now, it's very important that we understand this, because I think as a church, we just started to understand the language of enterprise. We haven't yet even begun to think about policy. And the fact that policy requires another language, I'll be very, very open, with you, because again, this is House of Civils. We have weak hands currently. The church in Nigeria has very weak hands. And those weak hands, the people in policy know that our hands are weak. That's why they will call our bluff on so many issues. These guys will pray and they will keep quiet. And it's because we have not been able to harness the power that we have through love and through policy interventions. So I'll use Paul as an example. Paul came into Greece in the book of Acts, and he came first to the synagogue, and the Bible says he disputed with them in the synagogue, or he argued with them, disputed over the scriptures. And Paul was able to talk scriptures, And then he moved to the marketplace. He was a tent maker. And then he met Aquila and Priscilla. He saved them. Aquila and Priscilla got saved in that same marketplace. And then Paul, from the commotion he caused on the marketplace, was now invited to a place called Mars Hill, or the Areopagus, which is the place of policy, where the Greeks who valued knowledge used to sit down and legislate. There's a language that policy requires that we're not trained. There's a posture that policy requires that we need to train our people in, and I will talk about that much later. But the place of policy is Mars Hill, or is the Areopagus, where laws that affect everybody is made. In some places, it's the palace, depending on the system of government, and in some places, it's the Senate. In the Jewish civilization, the Jews had a theocratic democracy, which means that they had a house or a Senate that was populated by rabbis like Nicodemus. So it was a democracy, but the guys that voted were rabbis. So there was a theocracy portion in there. And Jesus addressed Nebuchadnezzar, Nicodemus, as one of the members of that theocratic democracy. Jesus, when he was now addressing Nicodemus, and he was addressing Joseph of Arimathea, which was an enterprise disciple, Nicodemus was a policy disciple. Jesus said, other sheep have I that are not of this flock, right? So they were not pulpit disciples that followed him around, right? You get what I'm saying? Joseph of Arimathea was an enterprise disciple. Nicodemus was a policy disciple. So policy is something that the church must plug into. And essentially, it has to do with making laws that govern everybody.
Okay, thank you very much, Fisayo. I mean, you just explained my next question, which is, I wanted you to talk about the movement. I mean, because you talk about a three-tier approach, because policy is not just a place you just come out and go into straight. You talked about faith, you talked about enterprise, then you talked about policy. Then you mentioned that, policy, you are called from, I mean, the door is open from within and not from outside. Now, is there a way that you can, is there a correlation between your exploits in the enterprise place and being called into policy, or you can actually just move straight from faith and, to the place of policy?
I think there should be a correlation. I think one of the major problems we have in the world today is the concept of the career politician. The guy who has never done anything in his life, has never built any business, has never led people, and he's just a politician. The idea of a career politician is a problem. Because even if we get you into the place of policy, you're going to need a lot of work in terms of help. You need to be able to lead. You need to be able to do that. So there's a prerequisite, and Paul showed it. He said faith, enterprise, and policy. Now, let's talk about even the language of policy and the language of business. It's totally different. As someone who has been in policy, making policies for a long time, I can't use words like profit in policy. Right? I use, instead of saying profitable, I say sustainable. Right? That's just an example. But this is how Paul put it. When they invited him to the Areopagus, he got to the Areopagus, and they said, "You have started a new religion, blah, blah, blah." He knew that the price of starting a new religion was death. And so they asked him, "So what do you see for yourself?" And Paul said, "On my way here, I saw a statue." He said, the statue read, "To the unknown God. Let me tell you about him." Do you see how Paul anointed everything was crafty? Because people think that prayer is everything. Prayer has a role, wisdom has a role, right? Understanding has a role. And in policy, you have to understand. You cannot say, "Oh, I'm a Christian, I'm a Christian, I'm a Christian," and you violate the laws of policy. You can't. And that's what we see that is happening. I've been explaining this thing to people for the past few days. You cannot. So Paul knew that with my anointing, they will slaughter me here. He now said, "Okay, how do we introduce this? They've caught me talking about the gospel. To them is a new God. Let's do it this way. On my way here, I saw a statue. The statue read, 'To the unknown God. Let me tell you about him.' He said, 'In him we live, move, and have our being.'" Right? That statement was first made to Zeus. It wasn't made to Jehovah. That statement was made to Zeus, the Greek god of lightning. Right? But Paul took it because he has read about Zeus. And that's one thing. You have to read about policy. You have to read about economics. If you want to go into policy, you have to read about how history. You have to read widely. So he had read about the Epicureans and the Greek philosophers, right? And he knew that the only way to get this thing to these people was to bring something they are familiar with. He said, "In him we live, move, and have our being." Those people understood it. They understood. And at that meeting, the minister of entertainment got saved. That minister of entertainment became the first bishop of Athens. There's a way to carry the gospel into policy. And there's a way for Christians to behave in policy, right? So let's look at what's happened in let me stop there and wait for your next question.
Okay. Well, so we have Muslims, Buddhists on the score, right? Yeah. So I want you to strike a bit of balance,
Yes, that's where I was about to go.
Yeah. So, and I want you to go to where you want to go because I think I have an idea of where you want to go. Because you have touched on a very important matter, and that is the need to read wild and be culturally intelligent.
Yes.
Now, so a lot of our people will say to you, I cannot afford to, being culturally intelligent to them is compromise. They say, no, for example, I was in a meeting and, somebody now said, oh, there's a book called 48 Laws of Power. Said that book, anybody that reads that book is demonic and blah, 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 blah. And I laughed. And I said to the person that, have you read the book? He said, no. So how are you able to comment about this book? He said that was what he was told by his leader. I said, what if your leader is actually reading that book and using it to control you and he doesn't want you to have access to that book? And he said he never thought about it. And I said, well, I also used to believe the same until I went to read the book. And I realized that, in fact, when I read the book, I understood how the current president of Nigeria became president. I mean, it was almost like that book was his manual, and many leaders globally have used the same book to take over territories and all. It's almost as if we are afraid. So an average person wants to change Nigeria. He doesn't even know what the constitution says. He doesn't know the policies. He doesn't know the procedures. He doesn't know, can you speak to that gap? Maybe there's a fear in us because I see a lot of good people. They have good intention, but they don't even know the laws that govern their sector, right? They don't even know the code of engagement. I want you to speak a little bit into that code of engagement.
All right, fantastic. So the thing about the place of policy, like I said, is the doors will be open for you. And as the doors are open for you, immediately you have your tribe and you must be loyal to that tribe. Loyalty does not mean compromise. We must be very clear. Your tribe can know where you stand on an issue and they will respect it, but you must be loyal to that tribe. Sometimes people tell me, oh, I'm going into government, I want to do this, I want to do that. People that have, in government, there's communication between parties in government is done through what we call, in Nigeria, is done through what we call a memo, right? Now, somebody that has never seen a memo in his life tells me that he wants to take over territories in government. It's funny, I laugh. Because even if we were able to just manage to get you there, on procedural issues, you will be sacked. You will lose your job in the next 3 months. You're not seasoned. You don't understand. So one of the things I did was go quietly learn how communication is done in the civil service. Learn how communication is done around what the procedures are, make mistakes and then fall out again, try again. Learn how to address people. Learn what a permanent secretary is and where his powers are. Learn the structure of Nigeria's civil service and the laws that govern that service. Find your tribe in the place of policy because your tribe will protect you. If you betray your tribe, you lose. Because he that disturbs his father's house will reap the wind. Right? And you see what has happened. I mean, all of you know, those that betray their tribe lose. There's no go come about it. That's the only way. Because this thing is about tribe policy. Remember, the handle of the door there's no handle outside. The handle is inside. And once people open the door for you, you must. As a human being, it's not even Christian or Muslim. Loyalty is a human attribute. Right? Which means policy is always about agenda, right? You must go with you have to be able to sacrifice your own agenda for the agenda of the group. Guys understand this thing very, very deeply, right? And guys operate it very, 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 very deeply. You must read wide. These guys you are seeing and abusing, they're the smartest people in the room. Go to Harvard, they go to all these universities, they know exactly what to do. Sometimes they act dull to allow others show themselves, but they are the smartest people in the room. They take policy courses, they take economics courses. They are always in training, always in training. For instance, if you're a civil servant today, there's training stipulation for you by force at least once or twice a year. The question is you that you're running your own business. Are you training yourself once or twice a year? I'm talking about major training. For those guys, they're stipulation, and they do it with all their hearts. International, local, why? Because they know that they won't be promoted without it. So they do it. Level 14, level 15, level 17.
Hello, Fisayo, are you there? Okay, it looks like Fisayo's network is frozen. We will wait to get him back. But what are you guys learning already? Can you go to the chat box and let know what are you learning from what Fisayo is sharing? I mean, he's dropping the nuggets. If you are paying attention, can I see what you're learning already? Because this is very, very, very critical, regardless of the nation you are functioning in. Those of us in North America, I hope you are paying attention as well. Okay. So someone said the door policy opens from inside. Okay, good. Read very widely, very important. I mean, you can't write memo. You want to take over. You're just making confession. I'm going to take over. I'm going to take over. Right? You need to play the language of the sector. Culture is not a compromise. Because many of us, I know someone is on this call right now, he's tired, he's saying, God, take me out of here, I want to serve you, but sometimes, I watched an interview actually by, one of the senators was being quizzed, precisely Senator Godswill Akpabio, right? He was facing a panel, and all the questions he was being asked, he was not answering the question, he was saying what you could call rubbish. It's like when someone say blah, 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 blah. And, where I was that year, I felt, oh, this man is so unintelligent. How can they ask him something? But it was later, as I began to study other books on policies, I realized that is a strategy in warfare, right? That in warfare, it's a strategy to be in control of the conversation, wherein you are saying what you want to say, right? Contradicting everything, that you are not obliged to answer the questions directly. I didn't know. So when I thought he was an unintelligent person, I was actually the naive and stupid one who thought I knew, meanwhile I knew nothing. It was as I began to read Robert Greene's book on warfare that I began to understand that, oh, wow, this is a procedure, is a warfare strategy. And that was so mind-blowing for me. And now, looking back at election period in Nigeria, all those blah, blah, those were intentional stuff being done to generate traction and generate this, discussion. And many of us just felt, oh, maybe the man was senile and what have you. Election is over right now. Look at the man. It doesn't look like what he was talking about during election. So reading wide has helped me to understand certain things. Let's see, is Rizal back? This is a conversation we need to have. I think it's internet is acting up. We need to get Fisayo back. I'm admin. Can you help me, Richard? Okay, just when you said prayer is not enough to lead, we need knowledge. Bukit Church must get involved in influencing and make laws that govern us. Very important. Don't ignore policy as it determines your life. The distinction between profit mindset and government mindset is linked by policy. The right hand will not reign policy. I mean, it said something. Who is whispering to the king? It could be a side chick. I know a state in Nigeria that a side chick influenced a particular law. Is a northern state, right? And the man governing that state, made that policy to deal with some people who, were having issues with the side chick. Can you believe that, right? It's almost unbelievable, but that's the reality. Okay, Fisayo is back. Fisayo, welcome back. Yeah, are you there? Can you unmute yourself? Yep. Fisayo, are you there? Okay, we'll keep waiting for Fisayo to come back. So we need to understand communication in governance, right? The structure of government. Many people don't even know who is a permanent secretary, who is a protocol officer, right? I know a state in Nigeria that someone moved from being a protocol officer to being a permanent secretary, right? Okay, sorry. Fisayo, are you there?
Yes, I'm here now.
Okay, good. So I was saying before, while I was on mute, that someone actually moved from being a permanent secretary, being a protocol officer to a first lady to becoming a permanent secretary. Yet some of us, when they say come and become protocol officer, they say that's beneath me. I shall not go down. I shall. But people from PA or even social media manager into becoming, an essay, into becoming, a senator. Someone was a tailor. I know a tailor in Shomolu who went to talk to a powerful, godfather about his friend, to say, oh, my friend wants to contest. And the powerful man told him, like he said about tribe, that you don't want to lead to. He said, I don't have power. He said, I'll go and collect form first. And he went to collect form. And the guy became a local government chairman. And he's going to legislate the local government over you. It's amazing. Okay, Fisayo, welcome back. Yeah, can you continue your thoughts on what you were sharing before you left? Oh, looks like. Okay, I think Fisayo is joining on another device. Admin, can you help me spotlight him? Yeah, just a moment, please. Fisayo, you're on mute. Can you unmute yourself?
Yeah,
okay, I think we have you now.
Can you hear me now?
We can hear you now, yes.
Right. So yeah. I heard something about
sorry, do you have to device? There's a feedback. There's a feedback coming from.
If you are going to be an antivirus.
So can you check there? It looks like you have two devices on. There's a feedback coming from.
Okay, let me disconnect from one.
Okay.
Okay, so the thing about policy is that decisions are going to be made that affect your life, right? Whether you like it or not. And if you don't do anything, if you stay in the background, these decisions will affect you. They will affect you. For instance, I remember saying to people that, oh, there will come a time where you won't be able to do parties or you won't be able to gather just by policy decision. And everybody is like, oh no, because if you live the life where you like only your pleasure and your own family safety and all that, you will never be safe. Right? I remember 1999 when Nigeria returned to democracy. And for the first time, they said, oh, Nigeria was going to return to democracy and people should go out. Nobody came out. And it was only the touts who had nothing to do that came out. And if you look at that year, that was unsaid because there were just touts in the house. Yeah, there were a few distinguished people who came out, but a lot of people did not come out. So you have to start thinking, how do I become part of the elite that make the laws, that legislate, that also protect people? How do I, and that desire has to start being stirred inside of you. How do I get into the place of policy? you don't have to be an elected official to be in the place of policy, right? You can be a technocrat. So there's a category of elected official. There's also a technocrat, right? Where you provide advisory services. And you can start by just, I entered into the depth of policy in Lagos State, for instance, by doing pro bono work. Pro bono work. It was just pro bono. But by the time they saw the value, later they were willing to pay for it. I'm not elected, but I have a lot of influence. I have a lot of influence on what goes on in the government. Now, because of the quality of the work I do, right? People will say, oh, come and prepare presentations for me. I have this strategy session with the president or with the governor. Come and do this for me. Guess what? I sneak my ideas into those presentations. Because your policy only understands the covert. If you make noise too much, you'll be taken out. So sometimes I sneak my ideas into a lot of policy documents. And I've been part of writing a lot of policy documents on the background. I always sneak my ideas into it. This is how I think this thing should run. This is how I think this thing should go, right? Because they say, oh, come up with the first draft. And I'm happy to come up with the first draft. I go, and the first draft is full of my ideas. Because policy understands covert approach. How do we go in without them seeing us coming? The minute they can see you coming, they start to build doors and walls around you, right? But if they cannot see you coming, then they know, oh, wow, where did this person come from? But if you enter a room, a policy room, and you're a stranger to 90 or 80% of the people there because you have decided not to engage, then when it comes to recommending you, nobody's going to open their mouth. You have to do it so that by the time it's time to recommend you for something, there are like 5 or 6 or 7 people who say, I know him, oh, that guy is a good guy. And the way of achieving that is sometimes just doing pro bono work. I support more than one commissioner in Lagos now, pro bono. Right? So that's the way you win capacity, and you have to build your own body of knowledge. What are you bringing to the table? Your body of knowledge is important. What are you bringing to the table? Yeah.
Thank you very much, Fisayo. You've shared a lot, and I want to drill down a little bit because, you touched on something that I think is the bane of a lot of good people. So election is coming. They say this man is good, this man is bad, this man has questionable background, and blah, blah, blah. Now, the man with questionable background has won. The good people still say, oh, if I go and serve him or work with him, people will consider it as compromise. So they stay aloof and say, I'm not going to get engaged. Then the bad people or the people, there's no vacuum in life. Someone goes in there, begins to make funny policy that you don't like. And then you now start to pray that for God to touch their heart. That's been the standpoint, our attitude over the years, which I think is a terrible attitude because we hate to be called the boy of the man people think is bad. Right? Meanwhile, that may be the rule of engagement that gets you in. Right. So here is my question. The new government is in power in Nigeria and in some other countries around the world. In America, Olufisayo is gone again. Okay. I was going to ask him, in America, for example, election is coming. How do we practically position to influence policy? Okay, I'll wait for him to come back. Network in Nigeria is dealing with us today. But guys, I hope you are getting value. I believe some of you, your entry point might just be social media manager, right? To say, sir, I have observed maybe a commissioner or a minister or a special assistant say, oh, I have observed that your social media is not, I know someone who, okay, Fisayo is back. Fisayo is back. Oh, they say it's raining in Lagos. Okay. Fisayo, can you hear me? Can you hear me? You're on mute.
Yes, I can hear you. Sorry. Once it's been raining all day.
Oh, sorry.
Once it starts raining,
we need a policy that ensures that internet is working even when it's raining.
Exactly.
Okay. So, Fisayo, a new government is in power in Nigeria and in some other countries around the world because we have people living in other countries. how can we practically position to influence policy? You know, how can, I mean, from a practical point of view, and I know you and I worked on a policy for a parastatal last year that we knew nothing about. We knew, in fact, I think I was the one that got the call and brought in Fisayo, and the rest is history and all, you know. And so how can people position? What level of relationship do they need to keep? Because there is this way of, oh, they are the bad people, we are the good people, I don't want to be seen around them, you know, and this has cost us badly because we are always bothered about what will people say if they see me around them. Yet, even Jesus was around tax collectors and whatever. How can we practically position to begin to influence policy around Nigeria and around the world?
I think the first thing you said is to expand our influence. And this comes from the heart of love. You know, it goes back to love again. How do I expand my sphere of influence? I think that religious people, whether Muslims or Christians, are the most judgmental.
Oh, God. Internet, we need to hear this. We need to hear this. Okay, Fisayo, would you mind, maybe if you turn off your camera, maybe we can just do your audio. All right, looks like internet has kicked him out again. It was saying that religious people are the most judgmental people on the planet. And I agree with him. We're very judgmental because we have a sense of entitlement. We have a sense of we are the righteous. We are going to heaven.
All people in the world.
Okay, good.
Sorry, and once you're judgmental.
Oh God, oh God. Who can help me ship this right internet to? I wish I can bring him to America now or to a place where he can get it right. Okay, but I mean, it was talking about being judgmental, and I think it's correct. We know we cast aspersion at all the people who don't look like us. Fisayo, can you hear me? Maybe you can keep your camera off.
Exactly. Off. Okay, I've done that.
Good. Okay, so go ahead.
So most judgmental people, and once you are judgmental to a certain
oops. Hello, can you hear me, Fisayo? Okay, we can't hear Fisayo again. The internet must be really, really, really.
You are insulated from being a blessing to them and receiving.
Hello, Fisayo, we can't hear you. Let me send him a message. We can't hear you, Fisayo. Do you want to change your position? Right? But I think I get the idea Fisayo is sharing. Like Moton said, we don't like to soil our hands. You know, we're very judgmental. We claim we love, but we're very judgmental. I remember when the new government came into power, right? And I greeted him, right? Just by greeting him, I had a lot of hatred of people say, oh, you are compromised. Why are you supporting a man who stole election? And honestly, it just made me realize that people don't understand governance, right? Yes, there are cases in court. The tribunal is working. But once a man becomes your commander-in-chief of the armed forces, it determines your life. You don't want to be against that man. You want to be around power to see how you can influence. And that's why they say in politics, there are no permanent enemies. You only have permanent interests. That's why people cross from one party to the other, cross from one party. Our people don't get it, right? So we are very judgmental. We expect, you know, people who didn't vote for him to still be against him simply because, and honestly, the question I'm asking right now is, if we claim we have prayed that God's will should be done, right? And this man is now in power. What if this man is God's man? For now. But that's too hard for us. We want God to answer a prayer, but we want to determine who God puts there because we have the image in our heart of who we think the righteous man is. So this is the bane of many of us. We don't want to soil our hand. We don't want people to see us as compromised. Yet, your life is being determined by people you don't like. Dino Melaye is going to sign off on your behalf. People you don't care about, Zazu is becoming popular. Zazu may contest elections somewhere, maybe in Ota, where is this constant, and he's going to win, and he's going to get to Federal House of Representatives, and with your big English, with your speaking in tongue, with your big car, he's going to legislate over you simply because you don't want to get engaged or you don't want to get involved. I mean, Nena is laughing, but that is the truth. Don't we have people like Zazu or worse than Zazu in the house? We have them there because we fold our hands and we say all we are doing is to pray. You know, God, your will be done. How is God's will going to be done when we don't engage? So that's what Olufisayo is saying, that guys, we have no excuse. So check, begin to check, who do you want to influence? Which commissioner, which minister, which special advisor, which president do you want to influence right now? Can you even learn the rules of how do you become a tribe member? Because that is so key. How do you become their tribe member? Do you begin to show up for their meetings? Right? And I've shared with you before how I used to show up for political meetings, and we will see people, I will show up for political meeting for like 3 months, thereabout. I will show up, you know, and they will be discussing, you know, nonsense, what I consider as nonsense. They will get to meeting and will say, what is the agenda? And a lady will pass. Someone will just say, see the backside of that lady. And that will form the conversation till the end of the meeting. I was attending, but after a while, I got fed up. And I said, what kind of useless thing is this? So I stopped going. 6 months later, I saw one of the people in the meeting. So he now called me and said, Alakowe, you didn't come again. I said, sir, what you are discussing does not even make sense to me. And he laughed. And he said to me, I will never forget. He said, whenever we see someone who is going to be a threat to us, we create conversation to frustrate them out. He said, that was what we did to you. We knew you would not be able to stand that conversation because we researched you and we knew what you stood for. And we were not surprised when you stopped coming. That's it. So many of us can't stay. So my mentor said to me, you need to sometimes be willing to stay in the midst of mediocrity and ignorance and allow ignorance torment your spirit without you, you know, fighting it. So now I have learned to become more resilient, more flexible, more accommodating, you know, provided I'm going to get what I'm going to get. Can you serve wine? Can you be tasting wine for 23 years of your life, even though you don't drink wine, so that you can get a diplomatic passport like Nehemiah to rebuild the wall of Jerusalem? Can you do that? But that's what some of you will call compromise. Can you do a beauty pageant like Esther? Everybody become like Esther. Become like Esther. Esther went for beauty pageant. Esther went for one night with the king to even stand a chance to influence policy. So can we do many of those things? Are we willing to pay the price, or we just want to stay and do nothing? Okay, looks like Olufisayo is back. Olufisayo, can you unmute yourself, please?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now.
So I like the line that you're talking around, and I just want to throw something in here, that we haven't been taught the difference between holiness and righteousness. You know, and we mistake the two. Holiness is something being separate, right? And clean and pure. Righteousness is when something is aligned with God's agenda. There's a difference between the two. And until we start teaching people the difference, people will not understand that Cyrus can be called righteous or aligned, a wicked king, because God is about to use him to do something. Right? So people say, oh, I don't want to be impure. I don't want to go into politics because it's impure. But the truth of the matter is this, that you are being arrogant. And that arrogance is what gets you out of the game, like you said. The question you should ask is, what does God want to do in this time? If he doesn't find a Christian to help him with his agenda, he will find the most suitable person he can, and you can see what's happening. The other thing is that you must be able to surrender your own agenda. Anybody, he said, he that will be great among you must first be the lowest. So people have ambitions, people want to lead, but they don't want to do what it takes. If you want to lead God's people, and by that I mean humanity, you have to be able to drop your own agenda at the table. It is the men that don't have agenda that get leadership. And that's one thing I've noticed. It's the men that don't come to the table with, I must be this, I must be that, I must be this, that get leadership. In fact, at some point, you have to also have an agenda as to what you want to be. Do you want to be a front end or back end? The front end is overrated. You see, the back end is where the powerful men are, because vital organs are hidden. The back end of Nigeria's politics is where the powerful men are. We have to start building men that can hold the back end. I mean, see what has happened now, right? We have a country that was standing, the only balancing factor. So the North was there, the South was balancing the North. From Awolowo's time, there was balance to MKO. MKO created another balance.
Where is Fisayo? I wanted him to say what he was about to say. Oh, internet. I mean, he was about to make a critical point that you must not miss. I'm almost going to be tempted to say that maybe we need to redo this. Okay, Fisayo, are you there? I can see you. Fisayo, can you hear me? Okay, vital organs are hidden. Okay, many of us wants to be known. You want your name to be mentioned? No. I've written speeches for a number of commissioners, and I would never mention their names, right? Vital organs are hidden. You must belong to the tribe. If you don't get anything from this conversation,
I mean,
Fisayo, are you back?
I had input into the inauguration speech. Nobody knows but me. It was a commissioner heard it, and had seen what I sent, and called me and said, Fisayo, I saw your words in that speech. I told him, I said, sir, I didn't even watch. It's you that is telling me. I didn't even know that they used it.
Wow. Fisayo, are you there? Oh, wow, this was
every subsidy removal. Timeline, sharp. The place of confidentiality. Christians people don't know confidentiality and what it really means. And confidentiality.
Hello.
And what it really means. What it really means. PF, can you hear?
Yeah, you are going off and on, and there are vital parts of this conversation we have missed.
Hello?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Yeah. I said,
you have gone off again, Fisayo.
To understand confidentiality.
Okay.
Our internet.
Okay, yes, we can hear you now. Fisayo was talking about confidentiality. Okay, looks like we're having internet challenges today. We might need to repeat this conversation, trust me, because it's so critical. You know, it's so critical to our existence. But one of the critical things you must live with from this meeting today is the fact that you have no excuse whatsoever right? Not to get involved. Sometimes just by joining Rotary Club. Sometimes Ikoyi Club, if you're in Lagos, Nigeria. Joining Ikoyi Club is a little bit some extra money, but the value you will derive cannot be gotten on Mama Put, right? Sometimes you need to, many people live in America, for example. Are you aware you can request to take your mayor for dinner? When I got to Las Colinas, I was sending a mail to my mayor almost every day till I got a response. Are you aware that you can donate to election, a campaign, even if it's $100 or $200, they will acknowledge it. And we are aware of what we can actually do to get involved. Because many of us in North America, we are fixated on my work. Oh, account does not balance. How do I? Are you aware by volunteering in food bank, you can meet the high and the mighty? I don't miss Rotary Club meeting. It's about $40 that we pay more, but I show up. The old people are there, the owners of the land. They are putting me through, right? Many of us have power, but we don't know how to engage because you don't want to lose your soul. Let me say this on this call. If you are here and your greatest fear is missing heaven, you are very selfish. If all you are thinking about, I must not miss heaven, I must not miss heaven. He that seeks to lose his life will save it. And he that seeks to save his life is going to lose it. It's there. I don't want to make heaven, I don't want to miss heaven, so I'm not going to mix. So you're not going to think of people who are suffering because you are not playing where you should play. Oh, it's bribeable. They're going to, I don't want to get involved. I don't want to get my hands soiled. You don't want to get your hands soiled, but touts are going to rule you. They're going to make policies that affect your children. We are all here in North America right now. There are things you can't even do for your child. If your child says he wants to become whatever, he wants to change his gender, you can't even say no. A man was fined $14,000 because he stood in the way of his 8-year-old girl who wanted to change his gender. It's because we are not showing up. We are not pulling our weight, and because we don't understand the rules of engagement. The rules of engagement is never right and wrong. But many of us have been scripted to run away. Say, no, but I would never touch what is unclean. So guys, we need to wake up. And I'm hoping that you are going to come back to this meeting, all of you, and tell me how you are getting involved. Because this is not another talk show where we talk and talk and talk. Go and become a social media manager to a politician, right? Go and find out how you can be a tribe member and join the tribe. There are things you will see there that is not palatable. You won't like it. You will see all sorts of things that you don't like, that doesn't align with your values, but you need to stay there. Fisayo, are you back? Unfortunately. Yeah.
I can hear you, funny enough. Very loud and very clear.
So we can hear you now.
Yeah. Very loud and very clear.
Confidentiality, that was where you went off.
Yes, I was saying that we need to understand the value of confidentiality. Everything I do is based on confidentiality. The only reason I'm allowed into a room is because I've been tested, and the guys know that whatever is said stays in the room. So these are just human. They're not even Christian or Muslim or whatever religious values. They're just human values, right? Loyalty, confidentiality, love. And if you remain a human being, just remain a human being, it's easy for you to go into the place of policy. When I say remain a human being, allow your human virtues to come out of you and let those human virtues speak. You must learn how to keep things to yourself. There are things that you cannot do. They walk into the room, first thing they say is you can't even tell your spouse. You can't tell your spouse state secrets. There are things that are on my calendar that will happen in the next few months that I can't share with anybody, right? That will happen in Nigeria in the next few months. You just can't. You had the privilege of being there. because maybe he said I should come and put the slides together and I have the privilege. I mean, sometimes I'm on call with, we're like only 5 people on the call, high powered call. You can't say anything. And the only reason that you ever get to that place is because they've tested you with smaller things, right? And sometimes when it finally gets out, I've seen them look around and say, someone say it can never be Fisayo. Fisayo. In fact, someone said one day Fisayo is a vault. It can never be him. So who leaked it? There's a mole. There's a mole around us. That's what it's about. Tribe, loyalty, confidentiality. Let me tell you something Buhari said about somebody. He said it to someone. I'll just say it generically. As the head of the northern tribe at the time, he said, he said, this guy that wants to, he has an ambition. I'm just saying this guy. It's someone we all know, but I'll just say this guy that has an ambition to be president. He cannot run against my comatose body. That means even if I'm in a coma, as long as I am in a coma, he will not run. Do you know how powerful such a statement is? He said that's the currency of this place. It's the currency of loyalty. So you have the currency of understanding the operating environment and knowing what's going on. You have the currency of competence. You must be very competent and you must be wise. You have the currency of confidentiality. You have the currency of loyalty. You must have 1 or 2 or 3 of those things for them to even bring you to the table at all. You cannot just come and you don't know how to manage relationships and you want to come to the table. No. You must learn how to manage relationships. Look, if you're going to survive, or else you end up selling your soul. You're ready to understand that your emotions have, right? It is the interest at a point. Your emotions have no say, right? And you must be ready to get involved and tackle the issues and not say, oh, I can't get, I don't want to stain myself. That thinking was for back then. Right now, you get involved and you tackle the issues. I'm not saying compromise, no. But loyalty does not necessarily mean compromise. Let me tell you, even among corrupt people, they're always looking for an honest man. In policy. They are always looking for an honest man. So, as an honest man, you will have your value. They will know, this guy is honest, and they will pull you closer. Because everybody, even when they are stealing, they're looking for an honest man. Someone that they can live with their money that will not steal it. Do you understand? Someone that will keep quiet and not say anything. They're always looking for an honest man. So let me take it from the top again, that you must know that the place of policy is the place of rulership. And you must get involved. We have far played in such a way that we have not gotten involved in policy. And the worst of us has ruled over the best of us. Right? People who are not your caliber, they rule over you because, like PF said, Zazu is going to run one day. You can see what he's doing. Before anything happened, the guy was giving out gifts, palliatives during this difficult period. So he's already taking a position. Now, money, one of the easiest ways to get into policy is to donate, is to put your money down. You don't have to donate, right? This is what the big NGOs do, like Gates, Buffett. They will pay for technical assistance and they will put them in those offices. They will give grants. This is why I said we have weak hands. Our hands must become strong. Where you are giving grants. As an individual, you're giving grants to certain ministries, right? CSR, if you have influence in your company and you can direct your company's CSR give the CSI, it gives you leverage, it gives you mouth to talk. Yes, everybody has a voice. Money is the volume, especially in the place of policy. It's money that will determine what you can talk. Now, when they know that you're bringing money and you're not coming to take money, they're open to you. They just open up to you and they're like, okay. They'll say you are a neutral. They say you're a neutral. Always present yourself as a neutral. And as a neutral, they trust you. They want to listen to you. They trust you. They want to listen to you. No, never ever. And then there's the temperament of someone that goes into policy. There's a course they talk about speaking to power, how to speak to power. It's a training program, right? You must have a certain temperament. You must have a certain way where you are measured. You walk into a room, read the room, understand what's happening before you open your mouth, right? You cannot just open your mouth because you don't know who is who or who is not friends with who. So I've learned. People I've met in all the walks of my life, I sit down. I know this person is this. They talk about each other. I keep quiet because I don't know if they are friends or not. Before I engage and say I know this person, right? I will determine whether he's friends or not. Two of them, two big politicians could have fought over a babe.
Hello, Fisayo. Dr. Princess is saying, I don't move past no more. Yes, expanding my mind. That's the whole idea. Everyone has a voice, money is a volume. Currency to get involved in policy, formulation, loyal, can engage, wise, competent, managing relationships, be confidential, get involved, donate. Oh yes, you can donate. I do a lot of charity, even in America. I'm always finding out where sometimes $100 food bank goes a long way, right? Feeding the homeless, taking care of the homeless, showing up there, you know, you begin, it's called welfare economics. It's called welfare economics, right? Yeah, so let's see what others are writing about. Yeah, everyone has the voice, money is the volume, right? So you need to ask yourself, what CSR are you? I mean, 100,000 sometimes can do a lot. Okay, Nena is saying I work in government settings. I appeal for a repeat. Okay, right. And I'm glad that we have people who work already in the government agencies and House of Saviors. You just need to engage. Don't stand aside and say we are the righteous people and you are joining fellowship alone to be doing praise and worship. No, you need to do much more. Get in there. Position yourself in a way that they can call you. I mean, where parts of a few policies. In fact, I've worked more on policies since I moved to America than when I was in Nigeria. It was almost as if they just started saying me when I left, you know, and some of those parastatals and ministries, I knew nothing about them. We had to go and read, study, and begin to build frameworks and all, right? So like we said, you have to be a member of the tribe. So what tribe do you belong to? A tribe of Osha or you're a tribe of policy? Right? It's a question you need to ask. I think Fisayo has been off and on. Maybe what we'll try to do is to bring back this conversation some other day because our time is fast spent as well. But I hope you have learned something critical today, right? If you have learned something, can I see your response on the chat box? At least you have learned enough, you know, that can, and I think I love the way Bouquet Judge summarized it, right? Currency to get involved in policy formulation, you need to be loyal. Loyalty is not compromise. You must be able to engage, right? You need to be wise, right? You need to be competent, manage relationships. You need to be confidential. There are things you will see. I tell people there are things you will see. You will follow some people and you will know their side chick. And, you know, it's not your job to go and be telling people. Your job is to focus on why you are there because it's a position of privilege to be able to see what goes on at the back end, right? If you see what some of us see, you will pass out. You literally run away for your life and think you are in hellfire. right? But, you know, a man said to me, and I'll never forget, he's a prominent man in the place of policy, and he's been there for over 30 years. And I asked him, why have you not left with all these things that I see, that I'm beginning to see? And he said to me, he said, Praise, when a policy is made and you guys say that is a bad policy, he said, it's because of people like us that it became what looked like a bad policy. He said, because the initial policy was worse. He said, it's by lobbying and negotiation that we bring it from worse to bad, which is like an improvement, but you guys don't see it. You know, I just became quiet. So you need to understand this thing. Then I said, I just got a new position as project manager, business analyst for Constantly So Timely. I was scared because so many wolves in there. Please stay there, stay there, stay there, stay there, stay there. Don't leave, right? Stay there. We'll engage you and tell you what to do in there. Okay? I can invite a mayor to the dinner. Yes, do a mail to your mayor. Invite him to a dinner. You want to appreciate him. For those of you who run churches, organizations, invite your mayor. Do give them an award. Appreciate them. That's how to engage, guys. So it's no longer a time to be focused on let's make ends meet. No, you need to go beyond that and be part of policy formulation. We hope this has been helpful today. Unfortunately, internet did not allow us to get the best out of Olufisayo. But I think he has said enough that we can play with or work with. It's called rules of engagement. You know, I keep talking about rules of engagement here. Okay, Fisayo, I'm sure when you move to because when you get back to the UK, we will bring back this conversation because your internet there will be more stable. On this note, I'm going to hand over to Shetunde, you know, to take it up from here. Thank you, everyone. I hope you have had a great time. God bless you.